Imagine waking up today, May 13th, 2026.
Right, just a normal Wednesday.
Exactly. And while you were just, brewing your coffee, a single, totally invisible algorithm was already at work.
Oh, absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it adjusted the math curriculum for like 3 million middle schoolers.
And at the exact same time, it flagged this microscopic supply chain bottleneck over in Rotterdam.
Right. And it successfully modeled a protein structure that might actually eventually cure Alzheimer's.
It is wild to think about.
It really is. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are looking at a daily digest of AI news from exactly today. And our mission, well, it's to cut through the relentless information overload.
Yeah, because there is so much noise out there right now.
So much. We are unpacking a snapshot of a world where artificial intelligence it's moved entirely out of the server room. It is now the invisible architecture of your daily life.
And our goal for you today is to really synthesize how this technology is fundamentally rewriting 5 distinct pillars of our society.
Right, because the sources we're examining today, they don't just cover the latest code or the algorithm.
No, they cover the friction.
Exactly.
We're looking at that really delicate high-stakes balancing act between this hyperspeed innovation and, honestly, our fundamental human responsibilities.
Because we need to look under the hood here. We have to understand not just what is happening, but the actual mechanics of how and why it's happening.
Right. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start right where human development starts.
Yeah.
The classroom.
Yeah. Huge changes there.
Massive. Because according to our source Digest, education is currently undergoing this massive structural integration.
It really is. Schools and universities are deploying these incredibly advanced AI-driven tutoring systems.
Right, these highly personalized learning platforms. And the stated goal here is to cater to wildly diverse learning styles.
Which is great in theory, right? Allowing students to grasp really complex concepts at their own individual pace.
But the mechanism driving this, it isn't just a smarter digital textbook.
No, not at all. It relies on continuous, real-time telemetry.
Telemetry, like tracking everything.
Exactly. Think about it historically. A teacher with 30 students had to basically teach to the middle of the bell curve.
Right, you establish an average pace and just sort of hope the advanced kids don't completely check out.
And hope the struggling kids don't fall too far behind. But these AI platforms completely obliterate that bell curve.
How so? Like, mechanically, how are they doing it?
By tracking micro-interactions, the system logs the literal milliseconds of hesitation between a student's keystrokes.
Oh, wow. Milliseconds.
Yeah. It measures how long their eyes dwell on a specific vocabulary word. It calculates their cognitive load in real time.
That's wild. So it dynamically adjusts the difficulty of the next question before the student even realizes they were struggling.
Exactly. It's that fast.
Okay, see, that level of observation feels profound, sure, but it also feels deeply unsettling to me.
It's definitely a lot.
It sounds less like a bespoke tutor and more like, I don't know, giving every single student a hyper-observant personal coach who never ever blinks.
Unblinking is a good word for it.
Right. I have to push back on the terminology the sources use here. Is personalized learning just a highly sanitized, polite term for constant surveillance?
That is the big question.
Because it feels like we are putting a digital ankle monitor on a child's brain. Are we turning classrooms into massive data mining operations and doing it at the total expense of student privacy?
Well, you've hit on the unavoidable trade-off that's really highlighted in our sources. High personalization mandates vast invasive data harvesting.
It's a package deal.
It is. The AI simply cannot tailor a lesson plan to a student's unique cognitive architecture unless it deeply maps their behaviors.
Their stress points, their weaknesses.
Exactly. You cannot have the hyper-customized lesson plan without the unblinking observation. The privacy concern isn't a glitch in the system.
It's a feature.
It is the fundamental engine of the tool itself.
Okay, I understand the technical necessity of that, I guess. But what happens when that data leaks?
Right, cybersecurity is a massive issue.
Or, when a third-party vendor just decides that a 12-year-old's math anxiety profile is suddenly a highly monetizable data point.
Which is exactly why the source mentions this massive push for teacher training.
Yeah, I saw that. But I'm struggling to see how a high school history teacher is supposed to stop a corporate data broker.
Well, the training highlighted in the digest points to a really radical shift in the modern educator's job description.
Okay, how so?
They are transitioning away from being, traditional lecturers standing at a whiteboard. They're becoming data
And
interpreters.
frontline privacy guardians, basically.
Yes. The teacher's role now is to look at the dashboard of insights the AI generates and then apply actual human empathy and context to that data.
So they're aggressively managing the boundaries of what the system is allowed to track and retain.
Exactly. They are the buffer between the algorithm and the child.
Okay, well, let's follow those kids as they grow up, because they eventually graduate from that highly monitored, highly optimized classroom, and they step into a global corporate world. And our digest says that world has been altered by the exact same technological DNA.
It's the same underlying system, just applied differently.
Right. We are moving from tracking a student's cognitive load to tracking the entire global economy.
The telemetry just scales up. Companies are deploying these predictive AI analytics across all of global commerce,
Right. So we are looking at systems that are optimizing these labyrinthine supply chains
overhauling customer service infrastructure.
and predicting market fluctuations long before human analysts even spot a trend.
Yeah, the speed is unprecedented.
I used to think of AI in business as a sort of, I don't know, a corporate oracle looking into a crystal ball.
A lot of people do.
But based on the mechanics we're actually discussing today, it's really more like a digital nervous system.
That's a great analogy.
It's running these continuous Monte Carlo simulations on literally millions of disparate variables.
At the exact same time.
Right. It's analyzing weather satellite data, global social media sentiment, local geopolitical news, port traffic, all simultaneously.
So it feels a pinch in a manufacturing plant in Taiwan.
Now, within a microsecond, it reroutes an entire shipping fleet in the Atlantic to compensate.
It maximizes efficiency and reduces costs on a scale we've never seen.
But the digest also clearly outlines the human fallout of this, right?
Yes, the inevitable job displacement.
And the subsequent corporate pivot to what they call reskilling programs.
Reskilling is the proposed bridge here. The underlying thesis in the business sector, at least according to the sources, isn't wholesale human replacement.
Well, not for companies looking for long-term stability anyway.
Right. The stated goal is human-machine synergy.
Okay, I hear the word synergy, and my corporate jargon alarm just starts ringing immediately.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, think about your own job for a second if you're listening to this. If an algorithm suddenly automates the core tasks of your daily workflow, is reskilling just a convenient way for a company to shift the entire burden of adaptation onto your shoulders?
It definitely feels that way to a lot of people.
It feels like executives are just saying, well, the algorithm took your job, so you better go learn how to manage the algorithm entirely on your own time.
The skepticism is incredibly warranted, and the economic friction is very real right now. But let's look at the actual mechanics of this transition.
Okay, break it down.
That digital nervous system you described is mathematically flawless at logistics.
Right.
It will predict that supply chain bottleneck with 99% accuracy, but the AI completely lacks relational intelligence.
An ethical context.
Exactly. So it might output a mathematically perfect logistics solution that also completely bankrupts a key long-term vendor.
Oh, wow. Or alienates an entire local community.
Right. So reskilling is meant to train the displaced logistics worker to stop doing the math and start acting as the strategist.
So the human worker becomes the editor.
Yes. They take the AI's hyper-efficient output and they apply the human context that protects the brand's long-term relationships.
Okay, but are we really trusting massive corporations to gracefully and at their own expense transition millions of workers into big-picture strategists?
It's a huge leap of faith.
It seems far more likely they will just take the massive profit margins from the AI's efficiency and leave those displaced workers completely out in the cold.
And that is the exact tension defining the modern labor market right now.
It's a mess.
It is, but the companies that actually survive this decade will be the ones who realize that an AI-only approach leads to massive brand reputation disasters.
Because the machine doesn't understand PR.
Exactly. They need the human editor to prevent the algorithm from making highly efficient but deeply catastrophic errors in judgment.
That makes sense. Well, let's carry that concept of highly efficient data processing into our third segment.
Healthcare.
Yes, because the exact same predictive capability that is currently moving shipping containers is now being applied to human biology.
The stakes are so much higher here.
We are stepping into a realm where the stakes go from corporate profit to literal life and death.
We are seeing an absolute revolution in early disease detection and drug discovery.
Yeah, machine learning algorithms are bypassing the traditional, agonizingly slow human limitations of medical research.
The mechanics of the drug discovery process alone, it's unbelievable.
It blew my mind. Historically, finding a new drug has been a physical process of trial and error in a lab, right?
Right. Physically mixing compounds.
Testing them, failing, trying again, costing literally billions of dollars and taking decades.
But now the AI isn't using physical pipettes at all.
It's using digital math.
Yes, it simulates the physics of molecular folding in a completely virtual environment.
So it tests how millions of synthetic compounds might bind to a specific disease receptor.
And it runs years of physical chemistry experiments as pure code in a matter of days.
The acceleration is just staggering.
It narrows down the viable candidates before a physical trial ever even begins.
And we see the exact same pattern recognition capability in diagnostics, right?
Oh, definitely. An AI system analyzing a patient's MRI isn't just looking at the single image.
No, it is comparing that specific scan against millions of historical scans simultaneously.
So it can spot a mathematical anomaly like a tiny cluster of pixels indicating an early stage tumor months or even years before it becomes visible to a human radiologist.
Which is incredible for survival rates.
Absolutely.
But this brings us to the ethical collision our sources highlight. Healthcare providers are actively struggling to maintain the human touch.
It's a real crisis in patient care.
If a machine gives me a 100% accurate cancer diagnosis based on a pixel cluster, but delivers it through an automated portal with zero empathy.
Then we have sacrificed the core humanity of medicine for pure efficiency.
Exactly.
This really requires a clear distinction between curing and healing.
Okay, curing versus healing. Tell me about that.
Well, curing is mechanical. It is the calculation of the molecular fold, the detection of the anomalous pixel, the actual chemical intervention.
The science part.
Right. And AI is vastly superior at curing because curing is fundamentally just a data processing problem.
But healing is different.
Healing is a deeply emotional, psychological transfer. Healing is the doctor sitting on the edge of the bed, holding a terrified patient's hand, and providing meaning and context to the treatment plan.
A mathematical model cannot heal.
Exactly. It doesn't have empathy.
I love that curing versus healing framework. The machine does the curing so the human can do the healing.
That's the ideal synergy.
But honestly, I look at the reality of our medical system today, and I worry that hospital administrators will simply look at the AI's diagnostic efficiency and use it to cram 40 patients into a doctor's daily schedule instead of 20.
Oh, the systemic pressures of healthcare administration absolutely threaten this entire model.
Because the AI saves time, but that time gets absorbed by administrative greed, leaving the patient with zero healing anyway.
Right. The ideal scenario, the real promise of the technology outlined in the digest, is that offloading the heavy data lifting to the AI liberates the physician from the computer screen entirely.
So the doctor's no longer spending half the appointment just typing notes or reviewing charts.
Because the AI has already summarized them perfectly, the human doctor finally has the bandwidth to actually look the patient in the eye.
But whether the business of healthcare allows that bandwidth to be used for empathy rather than just higher patient turnover.
That is the defining battle of modern medicine right now.
That friction between math and emotion sets up a perfect transition, actually.
Yeah, let's talk about the abstract.
Because we've watched this technology optimize logic, logistics, and biology. But our digest notes that AI is aggressively moving into the realm of the human soul and imagination.
Creativity, art, music, literature.
Artists are actively collaborating with AI now, blending human ingenuity with machine precision.
We are seeing AI-generated art dominating high-end galleries.
An AI-composed music exploring entirely new sonic landscapes.
It's everywhere.
But you know, creating art with an AI used to feel like having a brilliant ghostwriter. You give it a prompt, and it spits back a painting.
But the mechanics are much deeper than just cutting and pasting.
Way deeper. These models map the latent space between concepts.
Right. They mathematically plot the relationship between, say, the brush strokes of Van Gogh and the abstract feeling of isolation.
It's fascinating, but honestly, it deeply messes with my head.
How so?
Well, if an algorithm and I co-write a symphony together, whose emotion is the listener actually feeling?
That's a profound question.
Does the mathematical precision of the machine dilute the messy reality of human expression?
Look at the historical parallel of the synthesizer back in the 1970s and 80s.
Okay.
When the synthesizer first arrived, traditional musicians totally revolted. They called it an artificial box that required no real musical soul, just the pushing of buttons.
Where they thought it was cheating.
It was a massive disruption. But the synthesizer didn't replace the acoustic guitar.
No, it just expanded the palette.
Exactly. It became a new medium. AI is a fundamentally new artistic instrument.
So the artist's role is shifting.
Yes. From the manual execution of the physical brushstroke to the conceptual curation of the digital prompt, you are the director of the latent space.
But a synthesizer doesn't train itself on millions of copyrighted songs without the original artist's permission.
And there's the friction.
That's the core of the fierce debates tearing through the creative communities right now. How do we even define ownership when the instrument itself is built out of everyone else's past work?
Our entire legal and cultural framework is crumbling under the weight of that exact question.
Because the laws are so outdated.
We're trying to apply rigid 20th century copyright laws to 21st century neural networks. Think about it, when a human art student spends 4 years studying Picasso, absorbing his style, and then painting something new.
Society calls it inspiration.
Right. But when an AI ingests Picasso's entire catalog in 4 seconds and predicts a statistically similar arrangement of pixels,
Society really struggles to define if that is inspiration or outright replication.
exactly.
That friction over copyright in the art world is really just a microcosm of a much larger, much more dangerous crisis, though.
Oh, absolutely. The stakes get much higher.
If our global legal frameworks cannot even figure out who owns a painted pixel, how on earth are they supposed to handle the liability when an algorithm denies a family a mortgage?
Or when a medical AI misdiagnoses a patient.
Exactly. Which brings us to our final segment today, the guardrails.
Calculation.
Policymakers are facing a truly monumental task right now. Governments globally are scrambling to build frameworks for ethical and responsible use.
And the legislative momentum in our digest is hyper-focused on 3 main targets.
Bias, transparency, and accountability.
Those are the big 3.
But reading the digest, it feels like regulators are trying to impose a strict 55-mile-per-hour speed limit on a spaceship that is already halfway to Mars.
That is the perfect way to put it.
The core demand from policymakers is transparency. They want to know exactly how the AI makes its decisions. But based on the mechanics of deep learning, that is practically impossible, right?
Yeah, it's a huge technical hurdle.
Because these systems are massive neural networks with billions, sometimes trillions, of parameters adjusting their own mathematical weights autonomously.
They learn so fast and in such complex dimensions that they become absolute black boxes.
Even the original developers who built the architecture cannot definitively trace the exact pathway the system took to arrive at a specific output.
Right, they can't see the exact math.
So how do you regulate the transparency of a machine whose thoughts are mathematically invisible?
You've isolated the central paradox of AI regulation right there. It is an impossible tightrope walk between overregulating and underregulating.
Explain that. What happens if we overregulate?
Well, if lawmakers demand absolute transparency, if they mandate that every single calculation an AI makes must be easily explainable to a human auditor, they effectively lobotomize the technology.
Really?
Yes, you strip away the complex, multidimensional pattern recognition that allows for the life-saving protein folding we discussed earlier. You regress the supercomputer back into a basic calculator.
But on the flip side, if we let it remain a black box, we are flying completely blind.
And that is the danger of underregulating. Let's say you let a black box AI decide who gets approved for a business loan or who gets granted criminal parole.
Okay.
And let's say that system has ingested historical data riddled with human prejudice.
Which it almost certainly has.
Exactly. The AI doesn't just copy the bias, it automates it.
It scales human prejudice at the speed of light.
Yes. And you won't even know why it's denying certain demographics because you cannot see inside the neural network to audit the bias. Society is left entirely exposed.
So policymakers have to somehow foster rapid, life-saving innovation while fiercely protecting marginalized communities from automated, invisible discrimination.
It's an incredibly daunting task. The only viable path forward highlighted in the sources is deep cross-sector collaboration.
Lawmakers cannot draft legislation in a vacuum anymore.
The room requires technologists who actually understand the intricacies of the black box.
Plus, ethicists who understand the historical weight of societal bias.
And policymakers who understand the levers of the law. They all have to sit at the exact same table and find a way to speak a shared language.
Wow. Pulling this entire 2026 digest together, the most striking realization for me is how deeply interconnected all of these societal shifts really are.
They aren't isolated incidents.
Right. We haven't been talking about 5 different technologies today.
Not at all. We have been tracking the exact same underlying capability.
The power to ingest vast oceans of data, map the mathematical relationships within it, and predict the optimal outcome.
It is just being applied in wildly different contexts.
It's the exact same technological DNA tracking the micro-hesitations of a middle school math student, predicting a global shipping bottleneck, folding digital proteins to fight cancer, mapping the latent space of a pop song, and forcing governments to frantically rewrite the rules of global innovation.
And understanding the mechanics of that DNA is critical because you are actively interacting with it.
That is the crucial takeaway for you listening to this right now. You are not a passive observer in this shift.
Every single interaction matters.
Every interaction you have with these tools, whether you are using an AI assistant to write an email at work, clicking through an automated patient portal at your doctor's office, or just navigating the algorithmic feed on your phone.
Your choices, your hesitations, and your clicks are the continuous telemetry training the system.
You are actively shaping the landscape of this technology simply by participating in modern life.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, let's just step back and look at the trajectory of everything we've unpacked.
Okay.
We have built an invisible architecture entirely designed to maximize efficiency, eliminate friction, and eradicate error.
It is the unblinking educational coach, the flawless digital supply chain, the perfect diagnostic tool.
It is a machine fundamentally built to optimize human existence. But as artificial intelligence becomes this flawless layer guiding our education, our health, and our careers to maximum efficiency.
Will the ultimate luxury of the future simply be the freedom to make a purely human, unoptimized mistake?